Melbourne-based Indigenous soprano Deborah Cheetham has won international acclaim for her performances, from the opening ceremony of the Sydney Olympics to her one-woman play, White Baptist Aberfan. Now she's preparing to stage Australia's first Aboriginal opera. The cast of Pecan Summer is busy in rehearsals for a preview of the production at Federation Square on Monday.
It's perfect for film, this one.
I fell in love with opera at the age of 14. And I guess everything in my life's been leading me to this point, to write Pecan Summer.
On a cold winter's night in Melbourne, a small group of opera singers are warming up at rehearsals for Australia's first Aboriginal opera.
It's not enough that this might make history and that it ticks a few boxes. It has to be a great piece of theatre, and that's why we're all going to come together to do that today.
The project is called Pecan Summer, the brainchild of someone who is no stranger to making history, Indigenous soprano Deborah Cheetham. The inspiration to write an opera of her own came from a desire to share the stage.
I wanted to create a piece of theatre that would encourage other Indigenous singers to pursue a career in the world of opera.
Pecan Summer is inspired by events at the Cummeragunja Mission, an Aboriginal settlement set up on the New South Wales side of the Murray River in the late 19th century.
The conditions were really hard. Many of the mission managers would make up their own rules, and the Aboriginal people would have to live by them. They had to get permission to do everything.
By February 1939, residents had become so fed up with the conditions, more than 150 of them decided to leave the mission and take part in what's now known as the Cummeragunja Walk-Off, the first mass strike by Aboriginal people. They refused to return until the manager of Cummeragunja was removed. Some did go back, but many stayed away for good, crossing the Murray River into Victoria and settling permanently in campsites and towns such as Barma, Echuca, Shepparton and Mooroopna.
That is a pivotal moment for the movement towards civil rights. It was a march that began there early on that morning in 1939, and that march continued right through to the 1967 referendum.
The story itself was compelling enough for Deborah Cheetham, but 1 month after she began writing the opera, she made a discovery that transformed her task into a deeply personal one. The member of the Stolen Generations discovered that her own grandparents were involved in the walk-off.
I can't claim to say I was very clever and I found this story. This story found me and demanded that I write it.
It's a story that holds great significance to some of the cast members too, like Onus, whose grandfather was a key player in the walk-off.
Deborah's often fond of saying she's convinced we're going to work out that we're brother and sister by the end of this, because every time we find out a new piece of information, one or the other, we have to ring the other one. We go, I've just worked out that we're related through such and such as well.
Onus was first approached to be involved in the production for his visual arts skills, until he revealed to Deborah Cheetham that as a teenager he'd been trained in classical singing.
At which point Deborah said, oh my God, this is fantastic, waxed lyrical for a good 10 or 15 minutes and said, well, the part that you're going to play in the opera is this. And had already cast me and given me my partner and through this, until she sort of stopped and went, oh, that's if you want to be in the opera.
Queensland-raised Don Bemrose is also hoping Pecan Summer will be a career launching pad. He's studying opera in Melbourne after dropping out of a similar degree several years ago.
It's a very, Western European world, and being a young Aboriginal boy in Queensland, my two worlds didn't really go together, so I ended up walking away from my degree at the Queensland Conservatorium without graduating because I was that disheartened that I didn't fit that world and I didn't fit what it meant to be an opera singer. So to be involved not only with an opera, but an Indigenous opera and an Aboriginal story and a very important Australian story as far as the Cummeragunja Mission walk-off, it's so important because it resonates. The story resonates with who I am and who my family is.
Pecan Summer is due to premiere in Mooroopna in October, and it'll be watched with interest by those who still live at Cummeragunja. John Sandy Atkinson and his brother Kevin were born at the mission.
there's lots of good stories that can come from Kamargunja, and we shouldn't forget those things. You know, that there was even though some bad things were there, but that was a part of history. And you know, like I say, it's very sad that the modern generation are still angry with something that happened back there when they wasn't there.
For Deborah Cheetham, there is plenty of work yet to be done before opening night.
There are some fairly significant milestones that we've achieved already with the opera. But really, all of that is yesterday's news in a way until you get in the theatre with the audience and you actually allow them to feel something and allow them to understand and participate in this story. And that's what I'm looking forward to.